Good afternoon. Welcome to 49ers After Dark Early Edition. Grant Cohn, Jessie Naylor. We have breaking news. It's Super Bowl week, and all the best investigative journalists in the sports world are looking for something to say about one of these two teams. And frankly, the Niners are the more interesting one. And so a couple articles came out today, one in ESPN Plus and one in The Athletic. A lot of new information about how Kyle Shanahan does his job and what he's said in the past privately, because we've learned recently that he knew Brock Purdy was the best quarterback pretty freaking early on. Jesse, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Grant. I hope you are having a great time in Vegas. I know that you're busy as hell. That's why we're doing the show a bit earlier than normal, but happy to see your face. Happy to see that you're having fun. And let's get this thing rocking.
All right, let's get this thing rocking. First topic, one nugget from these Kyle Shanahan articles. People around the league are upset, executives, with the Niners that they get so many comp picks because minority coaches and front office people keep getting hired and promoted around the league, and the Niners keep getting rewarded because that's the rule. And I guess other front office people around the league have privately voiced their displeasure at the 49ers, gaming the system? I don't know. What do you think of this?
Well, it's interesting because it seems like there's a bunch of unwritten rules within ownership around the league. One of them is we don't give guaranteed contracts. When Deshaun Watson got his, everybody was upset. You don't fully guarantee everything in a contract. And then this minority rule is obviously one of them as well. But what's interesting is Kyle Shanahan isn't just hiring minority coaches just for the heck of hiring them. He thinks that they're the best ones for the job. And he's been right.
And then
pretty much every single
and do well.
And then they get promoted elsewhere and then they do well. This is what the Rooney rule is designed to do. It was supposed to be in place so that you would hire the best coaches and not pass up candidates just because, they're not white. And Kyle Shanahan has taken advantage of the system because a lot of these other teams aren't looking under the rocks trying to find the best coaches. They're trying to find their friends. They're trying to find white coaches, I guess, whatever the case may be. And Kyle Shanahan is just finding the best coach for the job, which, by the way, they also happen to be minorities. And then he's banking on it. He's not gaming the system. He's just doing what's right for his team in the moment, which also benefits his team in the long run. So I don't understand why people have an issue with it. You all have the same coaches at your disposal. Go out and hire the best ones for the job. Go out and hire good coaches. And if they happen to be minorities and get promoted, well, then guess what? You'll reap the benefits as well.
But isn't there I'm trying to do like a devil's advocate here for the sake of it. Let's say Kyle Shanahan and the Niners are gaming the system in the sense that Kyle's a really good teacher of coaches. Kyle coaches really well. And he could say, if it comes down to two guys, a white guy and a minority guy, and you could go either way. They're both qualified. Kyle could say, man, I'm going to go with the minority guy because I'm going to coach him up. I'm going to coach either one up. They're both going to be really freaking good when I'm done with them in 2 years, and they're going to get promoted. And I want the comp pick. It's just like there's incentive. And if it seems like there's an imbalance, there's way more white coaches and front office people than not.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's what the league wants. That's what there's incentive to promote and develop and coach up these coaches. Do it until they change the rule. And there's an old saying where I'm from: don't hate the player, hate the game. And I think the NFL really needs to internalize that.
Well, and one thing that Kyle does do, regardless of what ethnic background somebody has, is he usually hires one of two types of coaches: guys who are ex-players or have been around for a long, long time, or somebody that comes from the coaching tree that he trusts. And a lot of that just happens to be ex-players and coaches that have been around for a long time that haven't been promoted into head coaches, often are minorities. But he trusts those guys because they've been doing the job at a high level at multiple stops for a long time. And a lot of them have crossed paths with people from his coaching tree that he also trusts. So I think that's the way he goes about it. It just happens to be that these are the coaches that he gets, and he does do a great job of coaching them, improving them, and getting them promoted. And it's a great system. It's worked out very, very well for the 49ers.
Yeah. So one of these articles referred to Kyle Shanahan as cocky yet endearing, which is an interesting balance to strike. And I think this is part of what makes him endearing. Like the way he does his business, it does seem like he's, on the right side of history here. Like he's an agent for good. He's trying to create the change that the NFL should have created a long time ago. And he's the spearhead for it. Like people are mad that he's profiting from it. Like the NFL wants this. He's at the forefront of it. And it's a good thing. It's like, oh, Steve Wilkes, you're having a tough time getting that head coaching opportunity that you deserve. Come work with me for 2 years.
Come here.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, that's beautiful. More coaches should be. It's like he sees, it's like, okay, like you got screwed in Arizona. You got screwed in Carolina. I see it. The rest of the NFL doesn't see it. They wrote you off because you got 2 opportunities and it didn't go so well. No. Come over to the Niners. Let me give you the Kyle Shanahan effect. And it'll be beneficial for you. It'll be beneficial for me. I mean, that's what it is. And I think it's great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And he's right, though. It has been beneficial for everybody involved. And a lot of guys have gotten promoted. The rules are in place by the league because this is what the league wants, at least on the surface. So, like you said, don't hate the player, hate the game. And the game is designed for this to be in place. And he does a fantastic job gaming the system, I guess.
Gaming the system. Yeah. Like, yeah, coaching coaches or spotting talent. All of it. Kyle Green, I'm sure you've answered this, but how the hell are we the away team in the Super Bowl and got crap practice field? We were 1 seed there at 3. Great question.
Yeah, it rotates every other year. And the 49ers happen to be the away team, I believe, the last time that they played in the Super Bowl against Kansas City. It's just the way that it works. It's not like the NBA.
Because in Miami, it's a huge city with, I'm sure, all kind of facilities. But Vegas has been a major league town for about 7 minutes. Like they're scrambled. They got 1 facility and UNLV. Not that that's an excuse, but it's a different thing.
The grass on turf thing is so bizarre to me. But either way, it rotates every other year. And to me, it should be more like the NBA. You already have the site picked out. It's not like the NBA where, okay, we've got to make all this travel arrangements based on who makes the finals. And then, oh, by the way, that team gets 4 games at home. This one is the site's already predetermined, regardless of which teams are in it. Why not give the home team designation to the team that had the better regular season? I think it's pretty easy to do that. So I don't know. It should be a change, and it should incentivize teams to want to play down the stretch as well.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Brother, we ain't losing. Bob says, what up, Ig and Nails? So they want to X Rooney Rule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Really hasn't been effective.
No.
This has been.
For sure.
This has been.
For sure.
Yeah, not forcing an interview that's clearly bogus, but actually incentivizing teams to promote them from within their organization.
Well, and also, truth be told, I mean, let's really look at the rule for what it is, and let's look at big organizations that try to take a stance against, minorities, whether it's, gender, sexual preference, what have you. A lot of these people put on a facade because they think it's the right thing to do and they want to win people over, but they don't really mean it behind the scenes. And I think this for the NFL proves exactly that. Sure, they put these things in place because it seems like the right thing to do, but behind the scenes, they actually don't like it. And that's kind of coming to light through this article, which was kind of a throwaway line, it seemed like, but it is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, it's an edge I guess the Niners have found, and other teams are welcome to go for it. Okay. Yeah. Breaking news about Kyle Shanahan. Breaking news. He's very confident. And apparently in 2020, he told someone on his staff, he announced to his staff that the Niners could win the Super Bowl that year where they went 6-10 with Nick Mullins. Now, in Kyle's defense, I felt the same way. Like when Jimmy went down and Mullins came in relief, I want to say against the Jets and then played the next week against the Giants. I thought the offense looked better with Mullins. I thought it looked better with Mullins in practice. And I remember Vish was on my channel and I was like, no, this season's not over. And Vish was like, no, he was like 19. No, man, it's very much over. And he was right. Kyle was wrong. I was wrong. It's kind of funny that this comes up 4 years later, but what do you think of this news nugget?
Well, I think it's actually pretty funny because I know a lot of people like really razz you about that take. But the reality is Kyle believed it as well. And the biggest thing was he was fully out on Jimmy Garoppolo during the 2020 season, which obviously led to the drafting of Trey Lance. And then somehow Jimmy kept lingering. But really, when you look at Nick Mullins and his time here, when he was playing, a lot of other really good starters weren't playing as well. It wasn't just Jimmy Garoppolo, swap him for Nick Mullins. It was like Nick Mullins would play and a bunch of other starters were also out or hurt or what have you. So maybe Nick Mullins might have been able to do what Jimmy Garoppolo did, which was go to the Super Bowl, go to the NFC Championship. We know right now that Jimmy Garoppolo is a backup quarterback in this league. We now know that for a fact. Just last year, he was playing very good football with San Francisco. So we can't say, well, he was playing good with San Francisco years ago and maybe injuries have slowed him down. No, last year, he played his best 4-game stretch ever with CMC in a 49ers uniform. And that was on the heels of going to an NFC championship the year prior. Maybe Nick Mullins could have actually gotten it done if everybody was healthy around him. And I think it kind of goes to show you just how good Kyle is schematically, that he can make guys like Nick Mullins and Jimmy Garoppolo seem more than competent as quarterbacks in the NFL.
I feel that. I like that take. The reason I think this is interesting for me is like, why did it come out this week? Well, what happened last week? Jed York said that Kyle Shanahan sort of called the shot, like Babe Ruth at the plate, pointing to the upper deck, like, nah, first week of training camp, Brock's the best. I know it. I'm gonna tell Jed. And this all happened. But so this is like from, I don't know if it's from an anonymous source or something, but seems like the message is, yeah, Kyle says a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like,
the message is Kyle thinks he can win with every quarterback, basically.
He told us in 2020 we were going to win the Super Bowl with Nick Mullins. That didn't go so well. Okay, so he said Brock Purdy was the best quarterback on the team one weekend. Like, he says a lot of things. When Matt Mayoko asked Kyle Shanahan, like, as he was coming off the stage after they drafted Brock Purdy in the 7th round, Kyle was like, why? Why'd you take a quarterback? I mean, Matt Mayoko's like, why? Why'd you take a quarterback? And Kyle's like, Nick Mullins. He's like Nick Mullins. So, and he's not like Nick Mullins because he can actually move and he's like really a lot better. No offense. He's a lot better than Nick Mullins. Way better than Nick Mullins. So, I don't know. Kyle calls the shots, but I think they're trying to create this perception and narrative that like the Niners are never caught by surprise. Kyle sees everything before it happens. Like, nah. No, this was freaking, he's Harry Potter. Just accept that you got very lucky with the last pick in the draft and thank your lucky stars.
Well, I appreciate the fact that Jed York comes out with these old tales that how great Kyle Shanahan was at predicting who was the best quarterback. And Kyle Shanahan's just very honest. He's like, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I said it in jest because I was frustrated and I saw him 2 or 3 snaps of practice and was like, oh, great. Our 3rd string quarterback's the best quarterback on the team. Like, we're in trouble. Exactly. But if I really thought he was the best quarterback, he would have been starting for the 40. Like, he would have been our starter. So, no, I didn't actually think that. It was just in the moment I was frustrated. I said it to York in passing, and now York's turned it into this whole tale of Jack and the Beanstalk or what have you. So, I love that. I think it's great.
It's like Kyle was saying, it's not that I'm in love with Brock Purdy. It's that I'm not really enthusiastic about either the 2 quarterbacks you're asking me about. The next Joe Montana and the next Steve Young. Not super enthusiastic about either one right now. Jed.
Yeah. And this is back then when he's talking about Trey and Jimmy. Yeah, of course.
Not like we got the next franchise quarterback. His name is Brock Purdy. Like, hey man, our 3rd string quarterback's outperforming the 2 guys that we're invested in. How do you feel about that? How does that make you feel?
Here's even more proof. A lot of people are like, well, I mean, there's no way he could have started him over Trey Lance back then. It's like, okay, well then at the very least, if he really thought Brock was that guy 1 week into training camp, He certainly didn't have to sign Jimmy Garoppolo 3.5 weeks later, which is exactly what they did to be the backup. He could have let Jimmy walk like he wanted to. He's been out on him since 2020 and just said, hey, I'm comfortable with Brock being the backup because I do think he's the best quarterback. And if we have to go to him, then we're going to be great. But he didn't do that. He went back to Jimmy Garoppolo, who he hadn't liked for 3 years. And the rest is history. So, no, he didn't just believe that Brock Purdy was the best quarterback then the way that Jed York is telling the story.
I just think it's interesting how Kyle is becoming the central figure because it's Super Bowl week and everyone who has sources is talking to people off the record. What's Kyle really like? And there's a lot of people who love Kyle, who are indebted to Kyle, who owe their careers to Kyle. And I'm guessing there are some people who feel like Kyle didn't help him, passed him over, screwed him, fired him. Well, I don't know. And it's interesting to know which one of those guys are on the phone, off the record, talking to people. Because there's one more bit of breaking news that came out today. This was in The Athletic, a very long, maybe 5,000 word piece about Kyle Shanahan's surveillance system at the 49ers. Players, coaches assume that they're being watched, recorded, viewed at all times by Kyle. Apparently, he sits in the room like Scarface and has a bunch of different monitors on and can see everything going on in every meeting. He can listen to what the coaches are saying. He can actually talk in, like, he can project his voice over speakers into the meetings if he needs to correct some coach. And basically, the attitude, interview a lot of people on the record. What are they going to say? Who are still with the team? They're like, yeah, it's great. We really like it because, it's nice to be able to have someone like Kyle who can really correct you if you need to be correct. Like, everyone's very diplomatic about it. Nate Sudfeld says, it's kind of weird. Yeah, I feel like I really could never crack a joke. I'd have to write it down. But that's really the most pushback they got. What do you think about Big Brother Kyle and his system? There's merits. There's merits to it. It seems a little over the top.
Yeah, it does seem a little over the top, just to the extent that, listen, not every moment are you going to be liked. And players do need to be able to vent to their coaches or coaches to other coaches and just get things off their chest. And if they can't feel comfortable doing that, then that could be a bit of an issue. But the other part of this is, and I'll pair it with the article from Seth Wickersham on ESPN, where it talked about how controlling Kyle can be and how he's in on all the meetings anyways. I actually like that because what's interesting about Kyle, and we talk about Kyle on the sidelines, which is how frustrating it can be when they pan to him, the defense is on the field, and he's just buried into the play sheet. Well, the reason he's like that or can be like that is because he's so into the game planning all across the board throughout the week that he trusts whatever they've game planned for is going to be executed on. And then also he can hear things through the headset that he's preparing for the next drive. So I think it gives some insight as to what goes on in the building throughout the week. Yeah, I mean, it's a little big brother-ish. I think that it could be frustrating if you feel like you're constantly under the microscope. But listen, it's not like Kyle is in every meeting every second and reviewing every bit of tape that is had. It's just there in case he needs it, I guess, and wants to chime in and doesn't want to walk across the building. I don't know. I guess I don't have that much of a problem with it. It's a little weird, but is he the only guy in the league? I don't know. Maybe others do it.
I mean, it's hard to say you have a problem with it, right? They're in the Super Bowl. They're really, really good. I just think it gives sort of an insight into who he is. And apparently he got this from his dad. His dad was the same way. But it's you mentioned something in your answer. He's very controlling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's we know he's very controlling of his quarterbacks. He wants them going through his progressions, and then checking it down, operating his system, not trying to transcend it. He wants, apparently, to oversee every single thing his position coaches say. And it seems like when you're that controlling, what you're lacking is trust. You don't really trust your quarterback to make decisions on his own. You're trying to tell him the decision-making process down to a T and just basically make the decisions for him. And you don't really trust your position coaches. You're making sure that they're not going off of your message or straying too far. I don't know. I mean, that's rough. And I think what we like a lot about Brock Purdy is that he does seem to transcend Kyle's controllingness. Jimmy didn't. They had sort of a toxic relationship. You could kind of tell when Jimmy would do something bad, he'd like look to Kyle like, well, you said it would work. You know what I mean? Like Brock doesn't do that. Brock takes matters into his own hands. He can make his own plays. And I think that's why he's so good for Kyle. But yeah, he is a very controlling coach.
Very controlling. But what I like about Brock Purdy, and this came out in the article as well, is that his rookie year, I think it was after the Miami game even, or his first start, he went to Kyle. See, he had sat back and kind of surveyed Kyle. He knew what type of leader Kyle was, and he knew how to kind of break down the wall of Kyle Shanahan. And he did that by going to Kyle and apologizing for the reads that he had missed in the previous game. And that kind of took down the walls of Kyle. And Kyle's like, hey, you know, I've never trusted a rookie as much as I do you. Like, it's all good. And it kind of opened up the lines of communication because Kyle didn't have to seek out Brock and say, hey, you did this, and this wrong. Brock sought out Kyle and said, hey, I know I did these things wrong. I apologize. I saw them on film myself. What do you need from me? And then that kind of built that relationship. I give Brock a lot of credit for that because you do see how Kyle treats him and trusts him a lot more than he has any other quarterback. And that's because Brock was able to sit back, survey Kyle, and kind of attack Kyle the way that he needed to make the relationship work, which is much like what Matt Ryan did back in 2016, that offseason with Kyle to kind of bring down the walls. And then it led to an MVP caliber season. So
it's a very interesting article in The Athletic if you want to check it out. First paragraph is a scene. John Embry, who used to be the Niners assistant head coach, went with Mike McDaniel to the Dolphins after Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers stripped him of his assistant head coaching title, gave it to Anthony Lynn, and essentially I think they were going to slash his salary by a lot. And he went to Miami. Starts with him in Washington, doing a meeting, trying to install some running play, making some decision about how they're going to block it. And immediately Mike Shanahan runs into the room. He'd been watching it on his CCTV or whatever and says, no, that's not how we're doing it. That's not how we're doing it. And that's, I guess it's like Mike Shanahan was a little dictator and Kyle's a little dictator too, a taller dictator, because that's the model he had. That's how his dad did it. He won 2 Super Bowls that way. It's just interesting. It's like, that's intense. And if you think about it, he always has young up and coming coaches on his staff. A lot of coaches might not go for that. Like, man, I've been doing this Kyle, I've been doing this since you were in middle school. Don't be lurking over my shoulder like that. I don't know. I feel like up and comers might be more open to that.
One thing that in reading these articles today that I kind of came away with is there actually is a lot of similarities between he and Walsh, at least the way that your dad describes Walsh. Your dad has told stories here on your show saying that Walsh used to come to him and be like, hey, am I any good? Basically like didn't believe in himself early on in weeks or early on in seasons. And then by the end of the week or the end of the season, he had full belief and everything was rocking. That's exactly the way Kyle is.
Yeah.
Every Monday through basically Thursday, he's a tyrant, according to these articles. And he's chewing everybody out and he doesn't have any confidence. He's going to be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat again that week and come up with the perfect game plan. But then by Friday, everything's drawn up and he's a wizard. He's kind of going through everything. He's getting everybody involved. They're going through the walkthroughs and the game plan and everything comes together. That reminds me a lot of the way that your dad seems to talk about Bill Walsh and how he used to be, which is kind of interesting to think about.
It's an interesting comparison for sure. I'm thinking the comparison between him and Andy Reid, and I don't really know how Andy Reid does his job, but it seems like, I mean, the culture it seems in Kansas City is much more loose. Like he keeps it pretty loose and light. He trusts his team leaders to sort of drive it. Kyle seems like much more the culture on the Niners is, despite what they make it seem, it's much tighter. It's I don't really trust anyone to do this. I got this. I'm gonna do this, and everyone just needs to do what I say because I got it. And if we lose, it's because someone didn't do what I said. It's like it's just seemed much more nervous. Maybe that's the wrong word, but I don't know.
I think the reason that he is
Tight.
so on tilt or
Yeah.
tight throughout the week is because he does feel like he has to do everything. So,
Yes.
that's kind of the downside of being controlling to the nth degree the way that he is that he does. It's not like I just have to come up with an offensive game plan. I have to get everything right prior to this game in the
Yeah.
whole building. Every
Right.
coach has to see my vision. Every player has to see my vision. And if they don't, and one thing is missing, then the whole thing doesn't work. And that's
Right.
why he's so uptight and stressed out. If he did delegate more or was willing to off some of that to other coaches, I think his stress level would be lower, but that's just how he operates. I don't know
He doesn't even
how
have an
long you
offensive
can do it
coordinator.
for.
He doesn't even have an
Right.
offensive coordinator. Andy Reid does.
Yeah.
He just takes on everything himself, and he has the reputation to uphold of being a genius. So he can't just go out there and have a merely decent game plan. He's got to put all the bells and whistles in there and remind everyone that he's even more creative than Mike McDaniel and he's the number one coach. Just like, it's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's what we learned about Kyle. And he's all. And the last thing I would be thinking about if I were a player or a coach in these meetings. Okay, there's a camera there. All right, Kyle's watching. Who else is watching? I don't know. Is Jed York watching? Is Mike Shanahan watching? I don't freaking know. Kind of weird. Man, how can you be yourself when you got that red light on and you don't really, and you know for sure that your boss is watching, but is that it? Because he can't watch everyone at once, but he might have team people watching. I don't know.
That's true. That's true. I'm sure his dad has a feed into the building. I'm sure of it. Yeah, we know he does on the practice field.
Is Mike Shanahan a shadow coach of this team? I'd love to know that. Can we get that expose this week? I want to know.
I think to a certain extent, at the very least, he really helps Kyle out, because one of the things that was said in the article is that I think it was this year, or maybe, it was last year. It was last year after Trey Lance had gotten injured. Kyle basically had lost all hope in the season because he's like, oh God, I got to go to Jimmy again. And he didn't want to go to Jimmy. He wanted no part of Jimmy again, which is another thing that points to, if he thought Purdy was that great, he would have gone to Purdy. So either way,
Nick Mullins at this point is essentially what we're learning.
Right. So he didn't want to go to Jimmy. He thought the season was lost. He was pissed and frustrated and letting everybody in the building know about it. And it was his dad that was like, hey man, you really have to like show trust. You really have to lighten up. Because I think his dad made a lot of those same mistakes. And from that point on, Kyle did lighten up a little bit and start to trust a little bit more, and just at least show his human side to some of the players that maybe needed to see it. And that was kind of the turning point for the team. And they were good, from that point on.
Certainly.
So his dad's definitely involved to a certain extent, for sure.
And I think that's just really interesting. Like, you got a borderline Hall of Fame coach who may or may not be watching your meeting. You're like Leonard Hankerson, the wide receiver coach, like, no pressure. Anyway, let's do some prize picks. I just got to share this. Hold on. I'm not prepared. Prize pick time. Here we go. All right. Got to get prepared for this. We did this last week. We got to do it again, though. I want to do Chiefs this time.
All right, let's do Chiefs.
Want to do Chiefs. Let's say Pacheco. We could do the rush yards or the rushing. How about the rushing receiving yards? 87.5.
I have to go more. He's going to need to be involved. And the 49ers run defense has not been great. I think that he's going to be pretty good in this game.
Yeah. If it's less than that, the Niners probably win.
Yeah, I would say so.
I would say so as well. Okay. Here's a wild card. Justin Watson, who's kind of like the Chiefs' Juwan Jennings. That guy that mostly blocks, but actually does get some targets here and there. He's kind of their secret weapon. He's not that dynamic, but he's part of their offense. Justin Watson, 1.5 receptions.
Oh, I don't like that one. I like the yards more because he might only catch it once, but I feel like it's more than 17.5 yards.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it'll be more than one catch. Yeah, exactly. Let's go yards. I feel more comfortable there.
I like that one. Justin Watson. Okay. Also, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. That's an interesting one.
Let's go more
Because
on
the
the
last time he
receptions.
played the Niners, he went for like 111 on 3
Let's
catches.
go more. Yeah, let's go
Right?
more.
I mean, he's going to get a couple targets deep. And if the Niners are playing 8 in the box, like if he doesn't drop the ball, all right. Noah Gray. They do actually use Noah Gray. That's another secret weapon of theirs. Noah Gray plays a lot for them. How about 12 and a half receiving yards for Noah Gray, more or less?
I got to go more.
Got to go more, right?
They're going to key in big time on Kelsey. They just are. And not that Kelsey can't still get a lot of catches or have a good game because he's squirrely and runs crazy routes, but I feel like a lot of these other guys, at least in the first half, are going to be very involved, but we'll see.
All right, let's go to Kelsey then for the last Chief, and then we'll get a Niner. How about 9.5 targets? I like that.
Less.
I agree. They're not going to force it.
No,
they're not going to force it.
Targets.
That's a lot of targets. All right, let's get a Niner. 1 Niner. So we got. What's some good action here? Purdy. I like the way Cam Newton says Purdy. Brock Purdy.
I
don't hate Brock Purdy. Like, what? That's not the name, man. What are you talking about?
Who is that?
Who is Brock Purdy?
Rush yards. Let's go more on the rush yards. 12.5 rush yards.
Easy money.
He's gonna have to get loose this game with his legs. So I'm gonna go more on that one.
Loose as a goose. Isaiah Pacheco on the rushing receiving yards. More. Justin Watson. Do we go all more? Man, me and we always do that. I like that though.
Optimistic.
Why not be? Marquez Valdez-Scantling. More. Noah Gray, of course. Kelsey.
Oh, we took a less. We did take a less.
Yeah.
There we go.
Secretly hating on Travis Kelsey.
Yeah.
Fun thing to do. Let's place that entry, but I can't because I'm in Nevada. Sorry. If you're not in Nevada, you can use
code
Cohn, COHN, and get that 100% deposit match up to $100. Oh well. At least you saw what I would have done if I was in. I don't even know how to talk anymore. If I were in California, I tried.
What I would have done.
What? No. Okay. This is interesting to me. I've never been in a press conference with Patrick Mahomes before. You get a different feel for someone when you're in the same room as them, just what they're like. And I think it's interesting to compare him and Brock Purdy because they're both extremely professional. They're both excellent faces of the league. But they're different. And I don't know if I'd love to hear your impression of what you think Patrick Mahomes is like as a guy. But for me, Purdy's kind of, as well adjusted as he is, he's still a 24-year-old who seems a little wide-eyed. Like, I can't quite believe this is happening. Whereas Patrick Mahomes sits there for a half hour every day, and he's just so comfortable. It's like it's business as usual for him. He does it every year. Nothing new about it. He has this dry sense of humor. He has endless patience. He never gets annoyed or frustrated with the question. He really wants to be the face of the league, takes it very seriously, and it's like watching, I don't know, a senator or president. He's 28. He's very mature. He takes it all in a very good spirit. I'm not saying Brock doesn't. It's just it's a whole different. It's his 4th time doing this. It's a whole different level of comfort and casualness, experience, and confidence that he has that Brock can't fake. And these are just press conference impressions. I'm not saying that this is going to carry over to the field in any way.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think let's look at Brock first and why he acts the way that he acts. First of all, utmost professionalism, very confident in himself, ultra competitor. All those things show through even in press conferences. But why would he be relaxed? He hasn't earned big money yet in this league. He hasn't proven for an extended period of time that he can play in this league at a high level. Now, I think most people see it now and agree with it and go along with that. But he himself, until he actually gets paid and is in a spot to be comfortable, I don't think that next year, I don't think he'll show that. Even if they win the Super Bowl, I feel like he'll still be a little bit uptight. And once he gets paid, I'm curious to see how his demeanor might change a little bit because, okay, I've made it to a certain extent. Patrick Mahomes, on the other hand, has been paid. He has done everything that you can do. He's already considered a top 5 quarterback of all time on most people's lists. People are talking about him. How does he pass Tom Brady as the GOAT? That's the conversations Patrick Mahomes is involved in. Also, let's look at his on-field demeanor. Patrick Mahomes, when was given the heart rate test a couple years ago during the AFC Championship, I think, and he was more calm. His heart rate was more calm when he was on the field playing than when he was watching the defense play. That's how much confidence he has in who he is as a player and how calm he truly is when everything is on him. When I look at the way that he does his press conferences, it's the exact same thing. He's very calm, spotlight's on him. He has a lot of fun, yet very professional, serious enough, just confident, tons of confidence in himself. And that's the way that he plays as well.
Yeah, it's the Niners are a very confident team, but you can't fake the confidence the Chiefs have. And Mahomes encaps like personifies it so much. And it's like
he relishes in it.
Well, for the 49ers, it just seems like it's such an important week, such a big week. It's a referendum on their whole last 5 years. If they win this game, it proves that they really were a team that had some bad luck, but was like an all-time great team. And if they lose, it kind of confirms that they're just not quite good enough, that something about their formula's off. And like the Chiefs don't have any of that anxiety coming into this game. This game is just another Super Bowl for them. They're in the Super Bowl every year. They were here last year. They'll probably be here next year. They already have 2 rings. They could lose this game and be like, yeah, it sucks. Really sucks. Wanted to win that one. And we'll be back next year and we'll win that one. Like the Niners, this is everything. This is the Super Bowl. This is their legacy on the line. Like their legacy's already cemented and can't, like they got the 2 rings. The Niners got nothing. So it's just interesting to see someone with that level of like, yeah, what do you want to talk about? So how, I'm here. We'll see you next year. This is what I do in early February. I talk to you guys. We do these press conferences for about an hour. I love it.
Yeah, but also how important is it that the leader of the team, the player leader, which is the quarterback usually, mirrors the leader of the team, which is the head coach. And when you think of, we just talked about Kyle Shanahan and how uptight he is. Well, Brock kind of personifies that himself in these press conferences. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way that he conducts business. Maybe that's why he and Kyle can see eye to eye and they're
he's not cracking jokes. He's not cracking jokes. Whereas Patrick Mahomes has a very dry sense of humor. He's absolutely cracking jokes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you look at what Andy Reid portrays to the media as well, very loose, very jovial, like those are the things. So they match up personality wise with their head coach. And that's why those marriages work.
And I think, it's funny, the legendary Bill Walsh story from the first Super Bowl. My dad told it a couple of weeks ago, the bellhop story. They're getting off the team bus, plane, whatever it was, bus. And freaking guy at the hotel taking their suitcases is Bill Walsh. And it's like a very like, hey, guys, lighten up. We're going to win. We're really good. Relax. That's Andy Reid. That's that culture over there. Now, maybe it's easier to have that culture when you've already won 2, but that was Walsh before he'd won any. And that's not Kyle.
No, not at all.
Kyle
but that wasn't Bill
like,
Belichick and Tom Brady either.
Like, oh, that is not what I told you to do. Sorry. He's just getting up,
But I mean, in contrast, let's look at Bill Belichick and let's look at Tom Brady. Very much like Kyle and Brock. Everything's buttoned up, all about business.
Yep.
That's the way that they were, and it worked for them. So, it doesn't mean that one way is better than the other, or is going to win Super Bowls, the other one can't.
Belichick Brady tradition.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's like they always have something to prove. And the 49ers do have something to prove.
And it was funny, like it felt like Brady took that treatment for a long time. Like, all right, man, I'm the most famous football player in the world, and I'm married to another really famous person, but I'll let you keep treating me like I'm the 6th round pick. Fine, go ahead. It's part of the culture. But at the end, Brady was like, no, enough. And then he went, but that was, I don't know if Brock
he outgrew it. He outgrew it. Yeah, he outgrew it because he had become the superstar and he was doing it for 15 plus years. But very early on, much like Brock, where it's like, hey, I'm here to help the team win, and I'm a part of the team. And then he was the team. He was the reason the team was winning. Very stark contrast to who he was his first few years in the league.
Yeah. To me, if you think the Niners are going to win this game, you got to really think about this with the Niners, like how uptight, how monumental this all is for Kyle, and how he sort of transfers that, I don't know, you want to call it anxiety, to his quarterback in the biggest game. And Brock is very confident, but he's not Mahomes, and I think he can be affected by his coach. So it's just interesting to see the Chiefs. They could lose, but man, when they got booed at that opening night,
dude.
they just had this smirk on their face, like, man, that's like, hey, give the Niners all the moral support they freaking need, man, because they just don't have that ring yet. Like, yeah, okay, we'll be the bad guys for sure. We're the bad
Did
guys.
you see?
know why?
Did you
Because we're
see that?
here every freaking year. That's why you hate us. We're like Mayweather.
Did you see that Chris Jones?
What?
Did you see that Chris Jones interview where they asked him, the 49ers got off the plane playing whatever song it was. It was called Get Back or something. And he's like, what were they playing? And they said, the reporter repeated the question and he goes, oh, good for them. And just kept it moving. Like, good for, if that's what they need, good for them. It's like, I'm not worried about what they got going on.
I feel like a lot of teams get into this little pissing match with the Niners, to lack of a better word, like the Eagles or the Cowboys. It's like, nah, man. What you do with the Niners, you praise them. Brock Purdy, he's underrated. Brock Purdy, if you watch the film, he is way better than people. And Kyle, he's doing a great job over there. He is that's what you do, because that's what they want. They thrive when you say, like, oh man, the Niners, they're overrated. They're not that freaking good. But once you start praising, they're like, thank you. I agree.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, that's what we needed.
There's the validation I wanted.
Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. So smart on the Chiefs' part. Mental warfare. If you've been following Super Bowl week, you know that it's very different from your average. It's not like the NFC Championship week. Usually when there's teams and sports journalists, there's like a certain type of coverage. There's very serious questions that are, steeped in football. What happened in this game? What's going on next week? Why did you do this? What's the plan? Not at the Super Bowl. Not at the Super Bowl, because up until now, all the credentialing process, the access has been controlled by the teams. Now it's the NFL, and they control the access to the Super Bowl, and their attitude is, this is our moment. We want all eyes on us, the highest rating possible. We want to dominate this week. So any media person who's interested, come on down, dude. If you have a TV, if you have a podcast, a website, a name, and a face, you probably can get into the Super Bowl and ask questions. And so you get some of the weirdest questions and it's kind of a tradition, like almost like the commercials. You get questions like yesterday, someone would say, Aaron Banks would say, hey man, if you knew you would guarantee a Super Bowl victory if you got Brock Purdy's face tattooed on your body, would you do it? And Aaron Banks is like, that's a good question. Interesting. Okay, so how big does the tattoo have to be? Oh, no, it could be small. It could be a small tattoo of Brock Purdy's face anywhere in your body, guarantees a Super Bowl victory. Would you do it? Banks like, okay, what could I put it like under my arm? Like, absolutely. He's like, okay, I'd do it. I would absolutely do that for the team. It's like, that's sort of what you get. And I don't know. I guess the players get a kick out of it. Like, they kind of earned a week of not being scrutinized. Yeah, ask me some stupid, like, what is my spirit animal on the field? Ask me that. I want that question. And that's kind of a lot of, you're not really supposed to go up there and be like, so what are you thinking about the Chiefs defense on third down? You don't really do that, which is, I like to do that.
No, I think the players probably do enjoy it. I mean, it is something different. And I think the week can be a tense week. If it was just business all week, 2 weeks really of just straight business, it's like, man, can we just play the game already? But this kind of gives them a reprieve from all of that. I enjoy it. A lot of people are getting mad. They're like, gosh, they just let anybody into these. And it's like, well, yeah, they actually do let anybody into those. Now, not everybody can get into the game itself. That's reserved for guys that actually cover the team. But as far as these Super Bowl credentials, people think that it's like a big deal to get. No, it's not. You start a podcast tomorrow and apply. And next year you could be at the Super Bowl asking questions. It's not very hard to do. It's not hard to get into the Senior Bowl and some of these other these are very easy places to get into. Just start a podcast and just apply. You will be accepted. So yes, when people are like, God, they just let anybody in. They do let anybody in, but that's what they want. They want everybody talking about it in their own way. That's why you had the lady that every year asked Tom Brady to marry her, all those things. Like, these people want to become characters. They want to get a soundbite. So they're going to ask crazy questions. And I think the players enjoy it. I would enjoy it because it keeps you on your toes, and it's kind of takes away from the game itself and the stress of it that is probably always there.
And you don't have to answer all these football questions that you don't want to answer. It's just silly stuff. It's promotion for the league. That's what, like, these players go out and talk for an hour every day. I mean, you can't talk about the upcoming game that much. So at a certain point, you kind of have to get silly or ask about their childhood or ask about their personality or their faith or things like that. I mean, Purdy's talked a lot about his faith and given really interesting answers, but you go off on all these tangents on Super Bowl week. And again, the NFL wants that opening night. They want the whole view of, look at all these freaking media people who can't get enough of these players. I mean, this is just the biggest event in the world, right? Like, that's what they want, which is interesting, as opposed to teams locally who, like Jed York, his attitude is, it's much more of like this is a private club, okay? And we have 7 people that we trust covering this team, and we will vet you and get back to you in 10 years if we like your coverage, but essentially we're good on this side. Like, we don't need any more. We're the 49ers. The NFL is like, no. Like, we need everyone here.
All of you. Everybody come. Yeah.
Teams should be like that. We get to lose. Teams should be like that. It shouldn't be so hard to get a credential.
I agree. Athletes do enjoy it, I think, for the most part. And I think a proof of this a little bit is if you look at MMA and what the UFC does every time they have a big event, these main fighters talk about how boring these interviews are and how they get asked the same questions. Well, over the last couple of years, there's somebody by the name of Nina Drama who has become credentialized, and she does these sit-down interviews, and they are hilarious. She doesn't talk about fighting at all. All of her questions are off the wall, just like the Super Bowl, and the fighters love it. And this is 3 days before they're about to enter a cage and fight somebody without their shirt on. So if those guys are enjoying those types of interviews, you've got to imagine that parlays across all athletes. They enjoy these types of things. It's different.
And it's a tradition. It's a tradition, like watching the commercials during the Super Bowl. You go, you make the game, and like you're rewarded by being asked all these silly questions. Like, everyone wants to know how you feel about what's your favorite TV show, what's your favorite book. Yeah, ask me that question. I'm in the freaking Super Bowl. I may never be here again. Like, let me be That's why I never understood Marshawn Lynch. I mean, to each his own, but like, why? They're the silliest questions in the world. It's like you're on Jimmy Kimmel Live and you're taking questions from the audience. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah, anyway, I love it.
Chris Talarico says, it's okay to make a personal decision that is also a business one. Ownership is mostly old white dudes, so I don't care what they think. He's just going to draft the running back. They won't play with that pick. No, he'll wait for the 3rd round for that. Give him credit. They're going to take a defensive end in the 1st round. Come on.
Yeah.
Kyle Green, if Purdy wins the Super Bowl, can we start to talk about him in the same conversation as Mahomes? They both would have won Super Bowl in the 2nd year, but I believe Purdy has better numbers.
Sure, man. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's on you, man. You can definitely
that's on you. I won't have that conversation.
You can go with your friends and be like, Grant Cohn said I could say this. He really said it. It was 48-56 in his stream. He said I could say this. Now, he's not saying it himself.
People will, by the way. But I've had this conversation, and people are going to, because what's interesting is people are waiting for a 49ers quarterback to be great, and any sign of that greatness, they're going to cling to. And we watched Josh Allen lose a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden the conversation was, well, Brock Purdy won and Josh Allen didn't. He's better than Josh Allen. And then the next week, he was better than Lamar Jackson. So if he beats Patrick Mahomes, I'm sure there will be people that are saying he's the best quarterback in the world. Sure, start having the conversation, by all means.
Niners daddy says, we hear Niners winning the Super Bowl. Easier if D'Amico DC. Well, he didn't do so well. D'Amico got destroyed by Andy Reid last year. So let's see what Steve Wilkes got. Lamont 757 says, Jimmy about to get cut. So do the Niners bring Jimmy back as a backup, or is Jimbo Finally done. Niners really like Brock, but got a kicker that might lose the Super Bowl for us in the third. Give me a break. That's true. Jake
I hope
Moody
that
is
doesn't
not off the
happen.
hook. You got one more game, baby.
Yeah.
He's one more week away from being permanently named Jake Wide Right Moody.
I think Kyle wants nothing to do with Jimmy Garoppolo, so no, I can't see him.
Oh, yeah.
being
That was
there.
a Jimmy question. No, where's Jimmy's next stop?
I don't know. Retirement?
Retirement. Charlie Sinclair says, talk to me about Greg Roman you like with Herbert. Right, like he's the run game coordinator. They'll get a pass game coordinator. I don't know. Kyle always breaks that up. I mean, Harbaugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Roman, I think a lot of people hate on Roman. I personally look at his offensive ranks, and they've always been pretty damn high as far as points scored. So I don't know. I don't think he's the perfect coordinator by any means, but I don't think he's as bad as people think he is either.
He did a pretty good job with Alex Smith, and Justin Herbert's like 11 times better than Alex Smith was. So
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I would say so.
Waruna Pereira says lost in 19 due to quarterback play. Brock didn't have 60-minute flawless game after Baltimore. They were trying to pump up his confidence. He was the best. He was the best is made up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people. You can look at Brock, and his numbers are certainly down in the playoffs. But for me, it's when he has played well, and he's played well when they've needed it most. What more can you ask for?
Lamonte 757 member for 9 months. Thank you. Who is Sparta? Jay Sway says, I'm sad you picked against us, Grant. JK Kyle looks much, much more loose. Which night? I feel like this is the most dangerous kind of Kyle. I'm excited for it. Yeah, he was loose getting off the plane. He was loose at the opening night. Real loose. But apparently not in team meetings, man. Apparently he doesn't play that. Hugh Olson says, might have missed it, but did you give away the jersey? No, it hasn't come in the mail yet, but when it does, I will give away the Debo jersey. Signed Debo jersey. I gave away the Trent Williams jersey. That one went to Sean Cook in Sacramento. Ronnie D-Man says, bro, go to the Palace Station Oyster Bar, best gumbo on earth, open 24/7. That's how you know it's fire. P.S. That was funny, big brother Kyle. All right, man. Palace Station Oyster Bar. Thank you very much. Didn't know about it. Open 24/7. I love stuff like that. But my bedtime's 9:30. Karan Sharma says it's not dark anywhere, boldface lies. But it's the early edition.
Anywhere?
Dark is more of a state of mind. Chris Talarico says, pretty sure Kyle will mellow out as he gets more experience. Reed was probably a lunatic when he was in Philly. All head coaches are lunatics in their own way. Mike didn't mellow out. Mike's still probably hounding his son for practice film. I need to see this. Dad, it's my team. Lamonte 757 says, is Kyle Shanahan the head coach or loss prevention? That's how he is Kyle Shanahan the head coach or loss prevention? That's how he decides who goes to Cabo, who might go to the doghouse. Also, I think Jed made that story up. And everyone had to go with it. Yeah, I remember that, kind of. Yeah, I said it.
Loss prevention. That's pretty good.
Ronnie D-Man says, bang, bang, Niner gang, 38-31 Niners.
I don't know how everybody's getting these high scores. It goes against conventional wisdom. The Chiefs haven't given up more than 27 points all year, and they've only scored more than 33 times this year. So I don't know how teams are getting over 30 in this Super Bowl. I don't see it, but maybe.
I'm not feeling the Niners defense recently. I'm not feeling it, Jesse. That's my analysis about the Niners defense. Not feeling it.
Good.
Jay McCallan says, Jesse, wouldn't it be weird, though, if, for example, the Super Bowl is at Levi's and the Niners are visitors just based on record?
It's super weird. I think it's weird anyways. Yeah.
Jeremy Price, Fred needs to shadow Kelsey. Fred marking Kelsey is second to that expensive D-line getting to bothering Patty. Moody, don't you dare miss a kick to the game. Right? It just shouldn't come down to you. But, like, if you're paying $20 million for a linebacker, he probably needs to be able to shut down Kelsey.
I agree.
Noah, am I going to be crying tears of joy or tears of disappointment on Sunday? I really want to go to the game, but I'm not sure if I should pony up the money.
I don't know. Super Bowl is a bucket list thing. If you have the money at your disposal, I would say do it. It's a once in a lifetime experience. I would go. I think the 49ers are going to win, so we'll see.
If you're the kind of guy who's going to be crying one way or another, that it might be meaningful to you to go to this game. Chris Talarico says, Micah shadow coach? Probably not, but he's most likely a very influential voice in the organization. I personally don't like it, but I get why he's there. I mean,
it's good.
They win the Super Bowl. Zeus Gucci Zeus Gucci says Brock versus Ravens equals trash. Mahomes versus Raiders equals silence. Raiders. How about Mahomes versus Ravens?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. You've got somebody who has it's all about sample sizes in the league. And when you've got somebody who has a sample size like Mahomes of being great, you can have a bad game and people probably shouldn't talk about it. But when you're 17 games into your career and you play bad, then people are going to talk about it. Just like when you play good, people are talking about Brock Purdy when he plays good as well. It's not just a one-way thing. Every game means so much when you have such a small sample size.
Jack's Fatboy 65 says, love the show. Keep up the great work. Very excited for the Super Bowl. Unrelated, but my girl is related to Jerry Rice. Oh,
that's pretty
humble
cool.
brag.
Humble brag.
Yeah. Prove it. Scott Hill, new member. Thanks, Scott. Kenyon Gim says, just butter the biscuits, Kyle.
That was so funny.
Ryan, butter those biscuits. The biscuits need to be extra buttery. Life with the Y says, this is a classic David versus Goliath. Brock Purdy will throw 5 touchdowns just like David threw 5 stones to take them down. I said it first. Did it take 5?
I love that.
Did it take 5? Is that true? Can we get Can someone confirm that?
But
can we get the box score on that David versus Goliath encounter? Get the box score.
Can we get the tail of the tape as well? Can we do that?
Yeah, seriously. What round did he go down? Gary Schetzel says Pat's HR was up when they called offsides on Tony. Man. Pat's. Patrick Mahomes, HR was up when they called offsides on Kadarius Toney. I think I figured it out.
What's HR?
I don't know.
So
Sorry, $2, I can't figure that out. James Welsh says, I love to ask weird questions. Kyle, if the proof is in the pudding, let me try to read that. James Welsh says, I'd love to ask weird questions. Kyle, if the proof is in the pudding, what kind of pudding are you looking for? And how has that affected your system? Here's the thing. That's like a question that would get asked and Kyle would have to answer it. He'd be like, well, you know, I'm a big tapioca guy. I'm a big tapioca guy.
A lot of chunks, a lot of ways you can go there.
Noah GQ Pena says, I'll be wearing my Niners socks on Monday. You guys make me feel alive again. LOL. Thanks for the show. Alive.
That's awesome. Thanks,
that was nice. Chris Tallarico says, very simply, Marshawn was like that because he feels like the media was unfair to him in Buffalo when he was having off-field issues, and when he was doing good, they didn't care about his off-field issues. Okay, fair enough. That's the local media in Buffalo. We were trying to say that in the Super Bowl thing, it's like you're getting interviewed by someone from the freaking Jimmy Fallon show or someone from Germany, or, you know, like there's people that you have never seen before asking off the wall questions that you could have fun with. And that's like Marshawn's personality. Ever since he retired, he goes and does a show with Amish people. Like that's the whole vibe of the Super Bowl. Someone Amish might just come up and ask you about churning butter. They might. You have to be prepared for that.
Or the pudding question.
Pinto says, guys, do we need 40 plus points to win this huge game?
I think 24 gets it done.
24. Dave Autoglass says, keep up the great shows. Member for 12. Dove Autoglass, get it right. Member for 12 months. Keep up the great shows. For you, we will. Gary Schetzel. Pat is elite at QB speak. His true colors slipped out after that offsides play. Whiny, non-genuine, and full of himself like his wife and brother. That's personal. Apple don't fall from far. The big brother doesn't fall from the... Oh, he's talking about his dad who got in trouble. Man, that was just mean all around. He was whiny this year, though, on the field. I would say that was true.
Oh, for sure. But whatever, he's great.
El Jefe says,
Tom Brady was pretty whiny. Go back and watch Tom Brady and his freakouts on the sideline. You want to, I mean, true. That is very true. Whiny.
That's true. You know who wasn't whiny? You know who took it all in stride?
Jimmy Garoppolo. The best.
El Jefe says, who gets blamed if they lose this game? Quality control all day.
Yeah, depends. I'll blame Grant.
If Brock turns it over, it's on Brock. If the defense gives up 30, it's on Steve. One way or another, I'm blaming Kyle, but no one else will. No one.
I was going to say it's not going to be Kyle.
Yeah. Vinny Boy says, will we get to Mahomes and stop Chris Jones? Survey says.
I think they can work around Chris Jones. I don't know that they'll get to Mahomes a whole ton.
Luis Madera says, eat at Tacos El Pastor in Vegas. First taco is on Migo Niners. Thank you. All right. I shall. Brother Bob. My Super Bowl experience equals PTSD other than meeting Rice.
Way to talk the other guy out of it.
Andrew Menard says, how do you think the Niners O-line matches up against the Chiefs D-line? What are the key matchups in the trenches? This Chris Jones guy, he's like, the Niners do a great job against Aaron Donald because Aaron Donald's undersized, and so is the Niners offensive line, and they can sort of match his quickness and get the ball out quickly. But Chris Jones is just huge. He's overpowering, and he can overpower Colton Kivitz. He can overpower John Feliciano, whoever he wants. He just take his pick on the off, other than Trent Williams. So just that inevitable double team gives everyone else better matchups. So that's the problem. Chris Jones. And if you remember the Super Bowl, he took over.
When I look at their defensive line with some of the injuries they have on it with Amenahu and Nadi, I think they can work around Chris Jones. I don't think that their defensive line is going to get home a lot on Brock Purdy, but where you could see them cause problems, batted passes. Yep.
Dove Autoglass Grant, how hard was it to be a Niners fan as a kid and being a Niners critic as an adult? Man, it feels like I'm 36. I feel like I haven't been a fan since I was like 18. So it's been a while. And it's easier to root for a team when you're a kid and you look up to them and you don't know them. But when you're an adult and you're like a colleague of them or working with them and you do know them, it's like, well, hold on. Like, you have your agenda. I have my agenda. If you win, I don't do better in my life. And if you lose, like, I don't do worse. We're sort of doing our own thing here. And I can't just be sitting here like, I really hope they win this game. Like, no, I gotta do my job too. So
yeah.
Ezio Sanchez says, I am Mexican. Think if I become a Bears fan, we get a 7th round pick. Maybe we can find another Purdy. I also root for the Niners on the low. Hey, shout out to Ezio, man. Thank you. That's nice. Steve M. David had 5 stones with him. Goliath had 4 brothers. I didn't know that.
It's a Bible study here. I like it.
Jason says, gents, I'm taking leave and flying all the way from South Korea to go to the game. Damn. Broke the bank for tickets, but I figure it's once in a lifetime. Do you know they're not gonna be back next year? Jason, Chiefs gonna be back next year, right?
Probably.
Steve M, 37-17, drunk Kyle gets it done. Vegas, baby. I don't know what you're talking about. Chris Tallarico says he was all over ESPN when he got his Dewey, but I agree with you. Also, if any team gets to 30 points in this game, they're winning.
Oh, I agree with that. If somebody does happen to get to 30, that's the team that's going to win.
Dustin the Gale, $10. Thank you. Jack's Fat Boy, 65. 21-14 Niners win. Mooney Ward interception ends it.
14. I like it. That's great.
James Welsh, nice. I'm big tapioca guy myself. Thanks, guy. Lamonte 757 says, I know it's not time yet, but going to be very interesting who Niners get in first pick in 3 years of the first round. Is it too late to call Robbie G? Yes, apparently. But it is interesting. I haven't looked into first round prospects in a minute. That'll be interesting to do. All right, last topic. Then I got to go interview players. It's almost that time. Do the 49ers really think they're the underdogs? I mean, it's just their social media team, but I saw him post something a couple of days ago saying against all odds, them being in the Super Bowl, which was amazing. Like, no. You are the odds-on favorite, been the odds-on favorite to win every game you've been in this year, including the one coming up. So, I don't know. Are they doing mental gymnastics? Do they really think? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think internally they feel like they're the best team in the NFL. I think they've felt that way for a long time. They've said it after losses in previous seasons. And they probably feel like this is the best team they've had. They know this is the best quarterback they've had. The team is essentially the same in a lot of key areas. They've added Christian McCaffrey. This team, I doubt, thinks that they are actually underdogs. Now, that doesn't mean they can't feel slighted by what the media says or what the Chiefs may say or what have you. But I think they are confident that they're the better team. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we will see. But there's no way that they can feel like they're underdogs. To your point, they've literally been a betting favorite in every single game this year. How can you take the underdog role? Now, that doesn't mean that individuals can't take the underdog role. Brock Purdy certainly can take the underdog role, but this team, they can't take the underdog role. They're the favorite, and they have been every single game this year. So no, I don't believe that they think that.
Yeah. It's interesting. They knew they were better than the Lions, right? There was that clip of Kyle Shanahan going up to John Lynch before the game, being like, I'll see you at the podium afterward, right? I don't know if they feel that way. I mean, it's easy to feel confident when you're going against Jared Goff. No offense to his family and Lions fans. Although, no offense. No, comma, offense. It's easy to feel confident when you're going against Jared Goff. It's different against Patrick Mahomes. And, when Kyle Shanahan isn't feeling his most confident, that's when he does stuff out of character. That's when all of a sudden the game plan's like, wait a second, you didn't run the ball? Like, why did you do what? Like, that's my only reason I bring this up. Are the Niners going to psych themselves out against Patrick Mahomes? Or because they've never beaten him. And I don't care what the regular season numbers say, the Niners rank ahead of the Chiefs in a lot of ways. Chiefs are hot and the Niners aren't as hot. And they know Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the game. It's interesting. Kyle Shanahan outthinks himself sometimes. He's got 2 weeks to outthink himself. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly does. I've been saying all week that I think the first drive is very crucial to this game. Both sides. You look at Kansas City, I believe they scored a touchdown on their first drive every game in the playoffs. And the 49ers defense has been letting up an awful lot in their first drives against the Packers and against the Lions. I think they gave up 3, but easily the Packers cut through the defense. And then in the Lions, they gave up an easy 7. So that's going to be crucial. And then the 49ers, most of the year, have scored touchdowns on their first drive. If the first drive doesn't go well for the 49ers on either side, and let's say the 49ers, after each team's first drive is down 7-0, I start to get curious to see what happens to Kyle and some of the play calling and where his mind goes. Because when I look at this matchup between Kyle and Spagnuolo, I think that is the matchup to look forward to. And Spagnuolo and that defense very often are soft on the first drive. They play a lot of just basic cover 2, and they figure it out as the game goes. They get better as the game goes. They start to mix things up. But that first drive, they're very vanilla. If the 49ers can't score on that first drive against a vanilla defense, I do start to get concerned that maybe it's going to be tough for them to score on the evening. So we'll see how it goes and how Kyle adjusts, especially if they are down.
Maruna Pereira, number 3 follows Kyle. Trey was the 3rd pick. Brock was 3rd in depth chart. He might had a drink before the presser, maybe 3rd Super Bowl loss loading. Man, oh man. Chris Tallarico, they need O-line and DB, so going to pick D-line in the 1st. Yeah. Ryan Castillo, have you seen more Niners or Chiefs fans in Vegas? Dude, how many Chiefs fans are there? I don't seem like there's that many for a team that's great.
Their content creators have a lot of subscriptions, so it's got to be a lot.
Niners win 27-21 in a close one with CMC the MVP.
I like it.
El Jefe says until they beat the Chiefs, they are the underdogs.
Okay. That's not what Vegas says.
Nahara 2020 says, what team has the most Mexican-American fans, the Raiders, Cowboys, or the Niners? Probably the Niners.
I would say Niners or Raiders.
There were a ton when I was there for the Niner game. Good question. I don't know. I'd have to do a poll. That's the show. I need to go to Lake Las Vegas, which is like 30 minutes away, and ask these people what kind of pudding would make the Niners system better. So thank you for that pudding question. Hold, we got one at the buzzer. The Housen says, is Juwan Jennings what Kyle wanted Jalen Hurd to be?
No, I think Debo's what he wanted Jalen Hurd to be. Yeah.
Yeah, Debo. Or a big combo. Jesse, thank you for going early edition with me today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have fun.
I shall. See you guys when I see you.